Wednesday, March 11th. I'd like to call this meeting of the Oregon Public Library Board to order. May I have a roll call, please, Laura?
Sure. Stata.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Goplin.
Here.
Bergstrom.
Here.
Betchen.
Here.
Bonsonfield.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
I'll do that.
Thank you. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? We have an agenda. Any community input this evening? Hearing none, we will move on to our consent agenda to approve the minutes from our February meeting. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have approved minutes, thank you. Moving on to a review and payment of available bills and accepting the financial reports. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll do that.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, Jen. Anything you'd like to point out, Jennifer?
You'll see the Schindler elevator bill. That's quite expensive. We had to have them out on overtime because we had somebody, an elevator issue, and we had some folks with mobility considerations that were on the second floor. So we had overtime so that they could make sure that they could ride downstairs safely. Those parts have since been replaced, and so we anticipate, or we hope that that's the last of our elevator service calls for a long time. We had our annual computer replacement. So you see costs for replacing 5 PCs. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to information items, the library director's report.
So heads up, everybody's favorite week of celebration, not spring break, National Library Week is coming up in April. So just want to put that on your radar. There's a lot going on for staffing right now, so we have a vacant circulation library assistant position. The application deadline was yesterday, so we're working on recruiting for that position. And then we posted our summer only limited term employment page positions. So we have 2 positions that we've had for a number of years to help out with the extra busyness that comes along at the library in the summer. And so the deadline for those two positions is April 1st. So there's a lot of work that goes into filling those, so we'll be excited to have those team members on board. We're also very happy that Monica, who is our circulation library assistant, who went on to other employment, she is able to continue on as a substitute in complements with her other position. And so we've already had her help out twice and have her scheduled for another Saturday shift. So with her other position, she's able to help us out on evenings and weekends, which are the most difficult for us to pivot when we have vacancies. So that's been a wonderful opportunity to move forward in a positive way with her departure. We will have the library closed on Tuesday, April 14th. As you know, we're having a migration to that new software has been moved a little bit later in that week, but that'll allow our staff all to be together to have the same training so everybody gets the same information. We usually do a staff in service in May, so we're basically just moving up a month earlier to time more closely to have that all be fresh in everyone's minds. And because of a lot of staff absences in February due to illness and funeral leave, we are just wrapping up our evaluation process. We have a couple meetings that staff are still hoping to have with their team members in the next week or 2. And then we'll be done with all of our non-management team evaluations. We always complete those first before moving on to other team members. You see the schedule here for the migration. As soon as I posted it was already out of date, so now they now anticipate the system will be down through April 17th. 16th will be the new go live date. Oh yeah, I did update it in time. I got it just in time for the meeting, so I did change it here. So they're hoping to do a press release on Monday announcing more details about the migration for the public and libraries, just to have everything official. And so we'll wait until that comes out to promote it to the general public. And then we'll have lots of PR. We'll have a draft website we have ready to go to inform people. We'll include in our e-newsletters. We'll have handouts and signage throughout the library to let people know. During the downtime, we'll be able to check out to people, but services will be a little different, so people will have to have their card to be able to check out. There's some services like self-check that people won't be able to utilize during that time. And so we want to make sure we share that information as widely as we can. It'll also take a little while for us to catch up after we're back up, because we won't be able to check anything in while the system is down. So that means the following week we'll probably be spending most of the week trying to catch up on the backlog of returns, and it'll take a little longer since everybody will be learning the new procedure at that time. There is the village election on April 7th. Again, the library's a polling place. There's 3 trustee seats. And you can vote for up to 3 for village board candidates. And the Friends book sale will also be in April, the week after the election. So it's going to be a busy month here at the library. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, those are the things I wanted to highlight.
Any questions for Jennifer? Okay. Upcoming library events.
We've scaled back the program a tiny bit just because of the staff position vacancy and the amount of time that needs to go into training and preparing staff for the software transition, but there's still a lot of events. We try to focus a little more too on things that are a little bit less, require a little less planning or have outside guests, to plan a little differently. One of the things that I think is a great opportunity is yesterday Callie was a facilitator for the ACT practice test for sophomores, which is a great opportunity. And then we're also partnering with the school district for Youth Art Month. There's great youth art throughout the community room, and they're going to have a youth art reception for the artists to come and have an art show for their grown-ups. So encourage you to check out the art or come to the reception if you are interested or able. Those are the things I want to highlight about the events.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to highlight on the monthly statistics report?
I think right now, the main thing I just want to remind everyone, because I needed to remind myself, was that a few of our statistics in the beginning of, like overall last year, most of our numbers went up. There's a few like library card sign up, and our door count and our circulation count were down slightly. And I thought, oh gosh, we're down. That's not as great as I'd like it to be. But when you compare it to how it was before we moved, the visits are still like a 60% increase over the 2 years prior. So even though it was down a tinge. So just remember that if you wonder about any of our statistics, I can always compare and highlight to how they were the year before. So I think these graphs are helpful because you can kind of look at the numbers, even though they might be down a tinge from January of 24, the first month we opened. The trend is upward on pretty much every stat across the board, with the exception of library cards, because I think most people that needed a card got one. And now we're kind of back to doing more maintenance where we have folks that are moving in or kids that are getting older and get to the age where they need a card. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I went back and compared all our numbers from 23 to 25 and was just re-inspired at how much those numbers continue to grow beyond what they were in 23.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Any update from the gazebo committee?
Sure, we met for the first time. We kind of came up with some different assignments for people to be able to reach out to the village or reach out to kind of look at a spot, see kind of what some engineering costs might be or some ideas for the gazebo. We did say that we would have, a design and a kind of an estimate probably by the end of the summer. So that's kind of what we're shooting for, not shooting for, aiming for, and just kind of working to get some good ideas. So, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's great.
Thank you. Village board announcements, I think Jennifer covered those. Any school district announcements?
Well, if any of you saw the live stream of the board meeting on Monday night, you saw this amazing student presentation from the students who attended the Multicultural Student Achievement Network National Conference. They just did a wonderful job talking about how much the conference inspired them and the things they want to do for the school district. So if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. The kids were amazing. We have 3 school board seats that are up for election. 2 are uncontested elections and 1 is a contested. So that's up for April 7th also.
Great, thank you. Moving on to discussion possible action items. First up is establishing a nominating committee.
This is something you'll recall that we do every year in accordance with our bylaws. So those are highlighted here. Last year, Trustee Reese and Trustee Bonzavio were on the nominating committee. Our bylaws limit officers to have 3 consecutive terms in the same position unless the board takes special action to make an exception. The only person that has reached the 3-year term for their current officer position is Laura, who's wrapping up her 3rd term as president. And even if you've reached your 3-year term for that specific position, you are eligible for nomination into any other position on the board for the future year. Jenny has been in the vice president position for 3 terms also, but because the vice president position is a little bit different under our bylaws and is specified to be the longest serving member, an exception to that is allowed if desired by the board. So right now we would desire to have an appointment of the nominating committee, and we would have elections in June, board meeting permitting.
Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to be on the nominating committee?
I don't mind doing it again.
I think we have 2 volunteers. Great. Can I nominate them to be on the nominating committee?
Yes, please.
I would like to nominate Laura and John to be on the nominating committee.
Thanks,
That
Jen.
sounds like a great idea.
So I'm hearing Carleen second.
I am.
Any discussion?
We're in a groove.
We had a plan. I do have a question. Can someone serve in a position again that they have had in the past?
They can, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Good clarification.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you for your service.
No problem.
We love it.
We can move on to authorization for the South Central Library System to submit adjacent county reimbursements.
This is also something that you vote on every year. Per the state statutes, we are able to bill adjacent counties for a service we provide to individuals that live in their county in a place that does not support its own public library. So parts of their county that do not have their own public library that they provide tax dollars towards directly. So these are the counties that we provided service to and are eligible to request reimbursement for services that we provided in 2025. And that reimbursement will be provided in 2027. So there's a 2-year delay between the service and when we receive the funding. So I would recommend this year, because the amounts are large enough that it warrants the time that goes into the accounting for it, I would recommend that you say you want to bill for all of those counties and that you allow the South Central Library System to take care of the billing on our behalf. It's more of an administrative task. They're billing for lots of different libraries, so it's very efficient for them to do that. But we just need to approve authorizing them to do so on our behalf.
Question?
Yes.
Can we build these types of services in the past?
Yes, we do this annually. Every once in a while, there'll be a county that owes us like $25 or $19, and we'll choose not to bill because it's a large amount, but most of these counties provided a reimbursement check in 2025, and many of them have, like Greene County, for example, and Rock County have for many, many, many years. Some of the smaller amounts like Dodge and Sauk, sometimes they may not have uses in a particular year, or might not be enough. It kind of depends on where people live and work and go to the library and things like that. So you could have maybe a handful of residents that
Okay.
might be generating the cost.
May I make this motion?
Yes, please.
Let it be noted that we bill for these services.
Thank you, Jen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Coral. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Let's see, additional part-time circulation library assistant position.
So this agenda item is a little bit more complicated to explain. So I'm going to try to follow the memo to have some structure, but feel free to ask questions if it doesn't make perfect sense. So right now, it's a little confusing because I'm going to talk about the same position in different ways. So right now we have circulation library assistant position, and one of those positions is currently vacant, where we're recruiting to fill that need. Since that position became open, it's kind of magnified some of the challenges that we've been talking about in terms of our staffing that we've been talking about since we opened the new library. So again, I'm going to kind of go back to our statistics. As you know, we've had significant increase in our visits, our reference questions, circulation, computer use, pretty much every statistic across the board since we've moved. And so that all those things require staff time and assistance in lots of different ways. Also, we went from having kind of one service desk to having a 2-story building, and where we have 3 desks, and we like to have 2 people at the main desk at all times because of the volume of people and just the tasks that happen there. So right now, even without the position of vacancy, it's been a little bit of a challenge to make sure we can staff all the desks during all the hours we're open. But with the 20-hour vacancy, it's really made that even more challenging. And 20 hours on its own isn't very much to fill, but on a normal week, we always have, it's likely somebody might be out sick in the winter, there might be, weather, there might be vacations. We have 24 employees, so if you're talking 52 weeks of the year, chances are if everybody gets 2 weeks of vacation time, and they all take turns perfectly, then you'd have somebody out every single week. So you have to think about those hours. So for example, last week, we had 2 planned vacations of full-time staff, and then we had the position vacancies. That's 100 hours that we didn't have filled by our regular staff. And so those hours, when you don't have anybody kind of on the bench to back those up and you don't have really any extra, those get really hard to fill. Our staff is incredible and really prioritize customer service and really makes that a priority, but often is doing so kind of at the expense of their own workload, and we're kind of having to pick and choose, well, I can be at the desk to help out this department, but then something else, it kind of is a balancing act a little bit. So we don't really have, all of our circulation assistants are basically on the desk all the time, and we don't have any overlaps in schedule except for one time where we have 3 people on Thursdays, sometimes when certain people don't work Saturdays that week, which means anytime we have one of those 5 positions off, either the circulation supervisor works more hours at the desk than planned, or we're pulling in from other departments in addition to the desk time they already have to be able to cover those things. People don't mind, but again, there's really no great backup plan just because there's not really any extra, it's pretty efficiently staffed. And then in addition, our circulation supervisor is already kind of working 20 to 24 hours at the desk in a normal week. So kind of looking back for the last 6 months, that's a pretty typical schedule. So that even on a normal week, leaves very little room for, managing all the employees, the scheduling, all those things. And a lot of those tasks were really difficult to do at the public service desk when you're, I'm not saying getting interrupted because we're here for patron service, but when you're having to pause what you're doing consistently, and then you have to figure out where you were, and then you're already on to the next pause. So that's very tricky. Things like staff meetings often have to get rescheduled, so we frequently have to reschedule our management team meetings, or people skip professional development because they just don't feel like they can prioritize that. So there's a library conference coming up in April, and we're not sending anybody just because it's just really difficult to be able to carve that time out for people. So, these are not new things. We know that there's challenges, and, we want to be a team player with the village, but right now, it's just really, during the position vacancy, it's been really extremely challenging. When we hire a position, that usually takes 6 to 8 weeks to hire, even if everything is lined up and ready to go. We post it for 3 weeks, we have to review applications, schedule interviews, and then the village has an extensive background check. So even if everything goes perfectly to plan, at 6 to 8 weeks, we're short. When we promote, if we have an internal candidate and they end up getting promoted, then we have to backfill, so then we have that vacancy again for even longer, so that can kind of build on it. So all that to be said, we've also been really lucky since we've moved to the new library. We've had almost no turnover in any of our positions, more than 20 hours a week. We've had one person that moved out of town, that was a 10-hour-a-week position. So this is really our first time where we've had a 20-hour public service desk position that really has to be, those hours have to be covered every week until the position gets full. That minimal amount of turnover is not normal in a library with as many part-time staff as we have, so we've been really fortunate. It's helped the village, has increased wages, and that's helped us to retain some of our very talented folks longer. But moving forward, we're going to expect to have, historically, and also moving forward for a library of our size, we should expect to have more turnover than we have had since we've moved here. And so that's a little bit concerning given some of the challenges we've had over the last month with the turnover we've had. On a positive note, we've also had an incredible donation again this year that I'm hoping that we can use again as a catalyst to work creatively with the village to kind of phase in some additional staff in a way that respects the challenges they have, but also respects the needs that we need to have to be able to serve the public at the level we are now. So what I'm going to propose tonight is that we create a new circulation in the library system position, so that's an additional one, so adding one part-time team member to the team we already have. That would give us one more person to be able to help cover those gaps at the desk, especially the evening and Saturday hours, which are really hard to cover when unexpected things arise. Sometimes the people that end up covering have already been here since 7 or 7:30, and then it's not desirable to have them work till 8 or at the end of the week to have them stay, work 6 days a week. We're hoping that this new position would be specifically scheduled so that they could be scheduled at the times that our current circulation supervisor is at the desk. And so that would take her off as the main person to fill those hours, and then it would allow her to better back up staff. So instead of having that 20-25 hours at the desk every single week, she would instead be able to be the backup when her team members were out. So just give us more flexibility. And then it would also take out some of the pressure off our other teams that are kind of also shifting their work to kind of help fill those gaps, just because it's too much for any one department to do themselves. I talked to the village administrator about our staffing challenges, and he fully understands the challenges we're having, but also, we recognize the village has other priorities, trying to get a HR manager on board, which I appreciated today when I was working on doing all the administrative things for 60 different applications for employment positions. So we also believe in the importance of that role for the village. But we kind of talked about how we could maybe use the donation money as a way to phase in this position into the village budget. So what I'm going to propose is that we use the donated funds we got this year to fund that new position, starting whenever we are able to hire it for the rest of 2026. And then for the 2027 budget, that the village would contribute $10,000 towards that cost, and that we would cover the rest with donations using the remaining balance from this year. And then there's some other donations we have set aside. We haven't been able to keep up to donations at the rate they were coming in, just because we don't have enough time to you do all the things to benefit from them fully. And so we have some that I feel like we could set aside to make sure we have that pool of money available. And then for the 2028 budget, that we would aim to fully fund that position through the village budget, or at least increase their contribution $10,000 more, which would get us very close to doing that. This is not how I would ever prefer to approach staffing.
Right.
I really don't like committing to something that's not, very clear in that budget moving forward, especially something as important as staffing. But I don't think we can really continue to operate the way we are without at least considering it. So I think it's important to recognize that, Martin's the village administrator, and while he is in support of this, there's no guarantee that the village board or finances are going to shape out the way that we just talked about. So we could get to budget time this year and it might be there's some surprise and really they can't contribute anything for 2027. And so I just want to be very clear about that's something that could happen. However, I feel like we have a lot of favorable financial factors and we're in a good position for a lot of different reasons, that if that were the case, we could find some other ways to kind of ease into that if it goes a little bit differently than we want. And then we would also, each time we had a position vacancy, we could kind of pause and reset and reevaluate moving forward how the staffing could be done. In each budget time, we could revisit how those priorities could be worked into the budget. Some of the factors that I think could help offset those costs would be that we have the solar project we're hoping to add this year. We approved that with OPM and are hoping to have that installed before the end of the year. So we're hoping that we can help
Maybe some of the operating costs.
the operating costs from the electricity towards that. We also got our county reimbursement totals for 2027, which we just approved the billing for. And those are going up just under $10,000. So that'll offset some costs. And then we also have a fund balance, which we really try not to tap into ever. And so that would be available if there was a surprise that would be available for us. We don't want to ever plan that for operational, but it's kind of a backup plan should we have some challenges. And then again, just, we want to be responsible. So if we had conversations and at budget time, it didn't go how we had hoped, we can always revisit those budget priorities each time. We can also pause anytime there's a position vacancy if need be and revisit. Do we leave it vacant for a little while? Do we rethink about how we staff things at that point? So that's a lot, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it, but I hope that kind of laid out
That was great, thank you.
the information. So I'm going to give my recommendation, and I'm happy to take any questions because it's a lot. So there's a couple things that I'm recommending you approve. One is that we authorize that's an additional part-time person for the circulation library system position at 20 hours per week, and that we do so using the donated funds that we received in 2026. That we work with the village to request funding for the position in the 2027-2028 budgets, targeting a contribution of $10,000 or more by the village in 2027. And that we designate, because we want to be responsible for any surprises, that we look at our available donations and that we designate a sufficient amount of existing donated funds to be set aside just for that in case things don't go as planned, that we have a little bit more flexibility so that we can make sure we can fund that position through 2028 even if the village couldn't contribute anything, just to be responsible, and that we also thank the donor for being amazing. What questions do you have?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
I think it's really critical that we support the members of the staff because they're working so hard and they're so generous with their time, and quite frankly, everybody that works here has the most positive attitude I've ever seen in a work setting. And as a member of this board, I don't want to do anything that wouldn't continue to provide the support that they need, because as positive as things are, if we show no way to make their burden less, that could wear thin over time. I think everything you've said here is really important, and I think we need to move forward with this plan. I wholly, completely support it. But that's just me. I'm just one member of the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, I recognize kind of the same things. Anything we can do to alleviate the already, we have already acknowledged that we have a pretty razor thin kind of margin on our staffing, and anything that will support that, I think also then contributes to our ability to retain staff as we go. So I am in full support of this as well.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, I would say clearly you've put a lot of thought into this.
Yes.
And really, turned over every rock to see where you can find a few more dollars. And, a lot of folks don't go to that extent. And clearly you have thought about all the places and all the combinations of things that could go together, and also plan for if those don't all work out.
Yes.
So, having a backup to the backup is remarkable, and I fully support it, and I think it's necessary.
We don't ever want to be in a position where we have to eliminate an existing employee because of what we're doing here.
Yes.
And so that's what we're trying, we don't want that to happen, and so I feel like we can do this responsibly and not be in that position. And if we do need to make adjustments, we can do it through attrition or other opportunities. So that was my goal, to prevent that from ever happening, at least because of this action anyway.
Well done.
I'm willing to make this complex motion as written.
I would like to be able to second that.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions, comments? I think to expand upon everything that everyone has said, I think just the pure thought and all of this planning that you've put into this also adds to the fact that this is really important that we do this. In retaining staff, in every argument you've made here, and the fact that you did go through so many to make sure that we can maintain this position over time, I think just necessitates how important this additional position is. So thank you for that.
And it speaks volumes about your leadership.
Yes.
Amen.
And I want to thank you for finding the donors and reaching out with them and maintaining those relationships, because that's a really hard conversation to have, especially with staffing, right? People want to donate money to a beautiful new building. People want to donate money to, but I think it's a tribute to what the staff do and what you do, that you have donors that are like, yeah, I want to help make sure that the staff are here and available and supported. And so thank you for maintaining that relationship, and thank you to the donor for being a wonderful human.
Yeah, I can't take any credit. This was entirely this donor's motivation to be generous and support the important work that happens for our community here. So they are an amazing person, and I just want to thank them if they watch this. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you all for supporting the growth of our library and our staff. And here we are at the closing and future agenda. So does anyone have anything they would like to request for our April agenda? Hearing none, our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 8th, here in the library at 5:15 p.m. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Oh,
I
oh, go.
seconded it.
Come on.
We're
Let
gonna-
her
I'll
have
second the adjourn.
Let's
So
not fight.
all in favor of adjournment?
it. Aye.
Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.